Yo, what up gamers, I'm Report and welcome to my 12.6 ADC tier list. The tier list is right here, so if that's all you want to see, you can fuck off now. The rest of us intellectuals will discuss the changes of this patch, which is not many. There wasn't any direct changes to ADCs this patch, so yeah, not gonna be too much to go over there. First, so I haven't actually changed too much of this patch because the only real changes were the system changes, the lifesteal changes, and the impact of that will be a bit hard to gauge, so I don't want to make any bold predictions. So I haven't changed anything in regards to that, but I will go over the ramifications of those changes as I see them. The one change that I have made is just Lucian. I moved him from middle of B tier to bottom of A tier. His buff to his passive was a lot stronger than I anticipated, so he's got a really crazy win rate right now with Nami and I think Soraka, and especially Sona, just any champion who can enable him to get as many passive procs as possible. Especially with Sona, it's probably the strongest bot lane in the game right now. Lucian Sona has like a 57% win rate, which is actually absolutely crazy. But I mean, besides that, he's still limited by being really niche. So just so you can see what I mean here. So super good win rate with Nami, but then negative win rate with Lux, which herself has a decent win rate and is very popular. Okay with Senna, pretty good with Yuumi, but really mediocre with Nautilus, who's fine at the moment. He's okay with Blitz, who is super strong at the moment. Bad with Pyke, you know, whatever, Pyke's whatever. But bad with Leona, who's also a good champion right now. So, you know, he's really limited to just what actually procs his passive. It's not enough to just be able to proc your own passive with your W, with engage supports. You need a champion who can actually just shield you or heal you or otherwise buff you in some way, and they just directly give you passive stacks that way. If you're not playing with a champion who can do that, then Lucian is not a good pick. So you know, that's very it's entirely because of his passive. And so the fact that the buff mainly came to his passive last patch, the AD buff wasn't quite as significant. It's just served to make him even more niche. So even though he's a lot better right now with the right supports, with other supports he's just about the same. So it's just making him increasingly more and more niche, which is why I don't want to put him in S tier. But, you know, bear that in mind. With the right picks, he is the strongest pick of the patch. It's just very dependent on what your support picks. So if you got a duo, for example, it would be good to try and get a duo who will play the picks that are really good with you. So if you want to play for lane, that would be Nami. Whereas if you want to play for like super scaling, that would be Sona or Yuumi or even Soraka. But Sona's going to be by far the best because she can just proc your passive a ridiculous amount of times. Every single ability in her kit except her ultimate does it, and it's on a low cooldown, so it's just insane. So it's the fact that it's so spammable for Sona that it's why she saw the biggest increase, as opposed to Nami and Yuumi and whatever else. They all saw increases, but Sona saw by far the biggest because she was the biggest beneficiary to his passive. Anyway, that's all for the changes that I made to this patch. So as far as the systematic changes that they've made this patch go, where is that? So we got some systematic nerfs to lifesteal, which is going to be starting off with some nerfs to lifesteal items. So shield bow lost 2% lifesteal, and it did at least get some stats back with the plus 20 health on its mythic passive, which will kick in really late, but once it does, you know, at least it's going to be something. Minus 2% lifesteal to Blade of the Ruined King without any sort of conciliary buff. Kind of sucks, because I don't think Bork is even broken or anything. And then same nerf to Vamp Scepter, minus percent lifesteal, but no like AD to make up for it. So these items are just straight up weaker now. Shield Bow is also probably just straight up weaker, but at least they tried to compensate it a little bit. So it's not quite as big a nerf for Shield Bow. And then for runes, they completely removed Ravenous Hunter. And they're replacing it with Treasure Hunter, which means you gain 70 gold when you claim a Bounty Hunter stack. This bounty is increased by 20 gold for each Bounty Hunter stack. And this rune is basically going to benefit most jungle, but then also bot laners. Because bot laners, when they like wipe out their lane opponents, that's 2 kills as opposed to 1, right? So there's just straight up more gold for you to obtain from Treasure Hunter on bot lane than there is on a solo lane, you know? So you know, it's a decent rune, I would hope, for some bot laners. It's not the worst thing they could have replaced Ravenous Hunter for, as far as bot lane is concerned. We've also got a very mild nerf to Fleet Footwork, where it lost 10% bonus AD ratio, or plus, minus 10% on AP as well. And then they also nerfed, well, changed at least Bloodline. You now get up to 6% lifesteal instead of up to 9%, but you also gain 100 health once you get to the full stacks. Problem is, I think they made it so you still stack it as slowly as ever, so it's gonna take forever to reach the maximum lifesteal and actually get to that plus 100 health. So in the meantime, your lifesteal is just massively reduced. I think if they had actually increased the amount of stacks that you get, or the amount of stacks that you need to get to the full, you know, benefit, then I think I would say it's more of a neutral change. Maybe even a buff, but as it is, I think this is a significant nerf. So I'm just gonna go over what I think these changes all mean for bot laners. Like I said, I didn't actually make any changes to the tier list itself, because I don't want to, it's hard to gauge exactly what the impact will be. And I don't want to be massively shaking up the tier list, just have to massively go back on my changes next patch anyway. If I do find that these changes are going to significantly have an impact over the tier list, then I'll make a like mid-patch update, or after a few days once I've seen what the exact impact has been. But until then, I'll just tell you what I expect will be the effects, more or less, without going too much into like what exact win rate change that will cause in champions. So champions that are hit hard by the Ravenous Hunter removal, either because they have Hail of Blades as their core rune, which means by nature they were taking Ravenous Hunter every single game, or that they don't use Ravenous Hunter or even Domination as a primary tree, but they were using Ravenous Hunter anyway as a secondary tree, or as a secondary rune, because they just really loved that extra healing. So we got Kai'Sa, Vayne, Samira, Lucian, Tristana, Hail of Blades Xayah, you know, which is optional, Aphelios, Hail of Blades Draven, Kog'Maw, and Kalista, all who really love taking Ravenous Hunter and are just not going to have that available anymore. As for the ones that are not, or that actually have decent options anyway, like even within the Domination tree, who were using Hail of Blades, right? I think, oh no, actually no, so I didn't even include them there. So for example, Hail of Blades Ashe was always using Ravenous Hunter, but I think she also had decent options with Ultimate Hunter and Relentless Hunter, same for Hail of Blades Twitch, so I didn't bother including them here. And as for champions who can look for other options in other trees in case they don't want Treasure Hunter, Vayne is pretty fine with Domination, with Resolve secondary, same for Samira. And Samira was actually very unpopular to use Resolve secondary, but I think it was actually quite good. So if she might actually see like a win rate increase if people just end up switching over to Resolve. So it's maybe not that big a deal for her. Aphelios also, he also had a way higher win rate with Sorcery secondary than with Ravenous Hunter secondary, which is his most popular secondary rune. So he also actually might see an increase here. Yeah, I think that's it though. But that's without going into the impact of the Treasure Hunter being added. So not all of these will want Treasure Hunter, but of those who are affected, who might actually benefit a lot from Treasure Hunter, without going into whether it's a buff or a nerf, just whether they enjoy the concept of Treasure Hunter as a rune, and so whether they'd be buffed by it potentially being a viable rune, or at least unaffected overall. Those are Samira, Lucian, Tristana, Hail of Blades Draven, well, any kind of Draven if he's running Treasure Hunter, and Kalista. So these are the champions that have a lot of kill potential in lane. And so they, of all ADCs, are going to be the ones that are most benefiting from Treasure Hunter. So Tristana, for example, my main champion, it's going to be sad to see Ravenous Hunter removed. But, you know, she's a champion with a lot of kill potential. So potentially you're going to be seeing a lot of gold increase throughout the game from Treasure Hunter. A lot more on average than any other champion who would see, who might want to use Treasure Hunter on bot lane. Because, you know, you just have such an easy time picking up kills in the early game. So in general, it's just going to help snowballers quite a bit. As for scaling champions, I don't think it'll help them as much. But, you know, throughout the average game, you would expect to get 4 to 5 stacks every game anyway. It's just a matter of when you get those stacks. And I think it's going to be more significant the earlier you get them. So yeah, I don't know, like, when I say that they benefit the most, I'm not saying that it's, like, going to be a buff to them, or even that it's going to be neutral for them. Just that of all the champions who are especially forced to use a domination rune because... you know, because they have Halo Blades as a core rune. These are the ones that are at least going to be least annoyed by the change, in my opinion. And who knows, maybe it'll even be a buff. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, that's the kind of thing that I didn't want to... the reason why I didn't want to make any changes to the tier list is because it's just really hard to predict. And, so champs hit hard by the lifesteal nerfs. So by that I'm talking about these nerfs here to the items, and also to... nerfed bloodline. Didn't really take into account the fleet nerf because it just feels very minor anyway. So those are going to be Ezreal, Misfortune, Vayne, Samira, Draven. So Ezreal, he doesn't actually build any lifesteal that I can think of, unless you're going some like Eclipse build. But he really loves the lifesteal from bloodline. He actually has a huge synergy with lifesteal, because his Q fully applies it like it's an auto attack, and it's a really hard hitting auto attack, and it's independent of your like auto attack cooldown. So he actually is one of the champions who actually benefits the most from lifesteal, even if he doesn't actually build it. So he really loved that innate lifesteal in his kit, or you know, from the runes. And so seeing a reduction on that is going to be annoying for him. Misfortune, likewise, because of her passive, proccing extra damage every time you switch to a new target. Especially on minions, that was just providing a crazy amount of lifesteal. She's always been a, you know, a huge beneficiary of innate lifesteal coming from runes without having to build it. And so seeing a reduction of that is going to be sad for her. Vayne is just somebody who typically builds lifesteal items, so she typically loves shield bow. And there's also been a Bork build that I've been using, which feels really, really good. And I think it's starting to see a rise. That also uses lifesteal, so that's going to be hit by that. She doesn't, as a champion, I don't think she really cares for lifesteal too much. She does have innate synergy with it because of her Q, having the same effect as like Ezreal Q or Misfortune passive. But that's on such a high cooldown anyway, that I don't think it's really a huge deal. She's just going to see a little bit of a nerf there in that department, just because she was building lifesteal, regardless of her synergy with it. Samira is, you know, hit double hard because she loves shield bow. She was always building shield bow, so she's going to be hit by the lifesteal nerf. And she also has some really good synergy with lifesteal in her Q. And her ultimate, actually. It's so much actually that those have even been nerfed at least once, because she was just so crazy good with lifesteal. So even after the nerf, you know, she does still love lifesteal, and she was building lifesteal, and she had it in her runes. And so seeing a reduction on both of those, that's gonna be pretty annoying for her. Like, maybe actually she might even be the one that is hit the hardest, because I think typically it was actually very normal for Samira to build shield bow and also take bloodline and also take Ravenous Hunter, which is really rare. Usually you don't want to double up or triple up on lifesteal sources, but she was one of the few that was actually doing that because she just really loved the lifesteal. So to see a significant reduction on everything of those for her, it's going to be a bit different to play her now, and might even make her significantly weaker potentially. Meanwhile, Draven, yeah, he's kind of like in a similar boat as Misfortune, where his auto attacks typically just lifesteal more than other ADC's auto attacks because they're buffed by his Q, and his Q fully applies the lifesteal. So he really loves lifesteal. Even not all of his builds do it. Like, you can build Kraken Slayer, or you can build Duskblade, which don't give lifesteal but are fine items on him. But you know, he was still like really reliant on Legend Bloodline. If he was going those no lifesteal options, and so seeing a reduction in that, it's just gonna be a huge nerf to him, like more to other ADCs. Because he was healing more from lifesteal, any reduction in lifesteal is just gonna hit him harder than any other ADC. And that goes, you know, for any of these other options like Ezreal, Misfortune, who just lifesteal more than other ADCs. Aside from that though, pretty much any ADC that was, you know, even if they were using Legend Bloodline, they weren't like the most reliant on the healing, or they weren't the most benefiting from it. And even if they were using like Shield Bow or Bork or anything like that, they had other decent options. So for example, Ashe pretty much always uses Shield Bow, but she doesn't have to. It's just what people prefer to use. She also has Kraken Slayer and even Gale Force, who are potentially actually even better right now since Shield Bow got nerfed ages ago, or a couple of patches ago. And so I didn't include them here because I don't think they're really going to be hit that hard by it. Whereas these champions, they just really love that lifesteal, wherever it was coming from. And they were even like double committing to it through runes and build. So to see a reduction in all of that, you know, gonna be a pretty big hit to them. But you know, that being said, I don't want to make any predictions about like exactly how that's gonna hit their strength, like if it's gonna be a 0.5% reduction to their win rate, or 1% or 2%, or even just like 0.2%. I don't know how significant or insignificant they will be. We're just gonna have to wait and see. And if, like I said, if there's gonna be any huge meta shakeups because of all these changes that I, you know, didn't see coming, because I don't think there will be, but if there are, I will make a new tier list within just a few days or a week, however long it takes me to notice that there has been a huge meta shift in terms of what is strong. Then I will make a new updated tier list. But in the meantime, you know, I just made this because I want you guys to hear my thoughts on what the impact of these changes will be, which, you know, I think is not going to be too significant. But you know, these are the champions that do actually care about these changes. Overall, though, probably not too big an impact. And yeah, just wanted to update you guys on the Lucian situation as well. Just another reminder as well. I think I already talked about this in the previous patch notes, but Samira is also like really crazy good right now. She's also a bit in the same situation as Lucian, where she's quite niche in what supports she can work with. But whereas you can see that there was only like 3 or 4 supports that Lucian was particularly good with, Samira's good with any engaged support. So Nautilus, decent with Leona, decent with Blitz, Alistar, apparently Renata. I didn't know about that one. Rel. Apparently Vanjana. You know, any kind of support that is either hard lockdown or at least has ways of buffing her up and also CCing the enemies so they can at least proc her passive. That's going to be really, really good for Samira. So she doesn't have quite as big highs as Lucian. Like, there's no Samira duo that is as good as Lucian Sona, but she does have quite a few duos that are as good as Lucian Nami, for example. And because of the bigger variety, that's why I'm allowing her to be in S tier, despite also being a little bit niche, but it's just nowhere near to the extent as Lucian. And then it's just good just because she's good with everything. Doesn't matter whether you have an engaged support or a enchanter support. She doesn't see too much variety in her win rate depending on her support pick. She typically, you know, she synergizes quite a bit more, I think, with enchanter supports. But even with those supports that she doesn't really have synergy with, like Zyra, she just has a crazy good win with Zyra anyway, right? And doesn't have a negative win rate with almost anything. So it's just a really good generalist pick, and that's why I'm putting her in S tier. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see the rest. No, sorry, that was the outro for my Iron to Master series. So no, just make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with any other patch note videos that I make, or if you want to see the rest of my videos. I upload these days. I'm uploading like 3 gameplay videos a day. So if that's interesting to you, make sure to subscribe and keep up with that. I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, gamers.